My name is Okoth Opondo. I'm a civic educator, and I do civic education through storytelling. And let me share with you a very interesting story. Every time I go around the country telling stories of stalled projects, of government projects that are being done across the country, day after day, and you host conversations in different communities and different people always meeting and having real conversations with you. So one day I decided to have a conversation with a group of young people. And one young person asked me a very important question in one of, I remember in one of the communities in Madare, one of the slums here in Nairobi. Why do we always feel like the decisions, especially the most important decisions about our economy as a country here in Kenya, are made somewhere else and not here in Kenya? And that, to me, that was a very important question, because it appears such a silly question. It appears like a conspiracy theory type of discussion, but it is the truth, because sometimes we see certain decisions government making, and you can always tell yourself, I do not think these things are about us. You can always tell that it is not about the leaders of the country making that decision, but it's about certain people, it's about certain conditions that have been imposed on them. Over the past 3 years, Kenya has accumulated another debt of about 3 trillion Kenya shillings. And they're now trying to see how to make things work. Some of these debt, they see it when they go to the supermarkets, when the prices of the basic commodities like the maize flour or sugar or tea leaves, when such kind of prices increase, that is where we are able to tell why is this increasing. But then we do not see what this money is used for. Why can't we see the money on the ground? Why can't we see decent roads? Why can't we see decent public schools? Why can't we see hospitals or better facilities in our community? It is increasing because the government wants to raise more money to keep on funding the debt. Something is happening, and I need to be concerned as a young Kenyan. One of the most common things that we use again here in Kenya, the public transportation, for example, what we call the matatus, which are like our public buses. And for the young people and the commoners on the roads, that is where they feel it, because this is what they used daily. The routes or the distances that we used to pay 20 shillings some 5-6 years ago, now we are paying about 60 shillings, 50 shillings. And when the prices of this public buses, the public transportation rise, then everything rises, because when the fuel prices rise, we know very well that the vendors will increase the prices of the commodities that they're selling. The people offering services like the delivery services will have to increase their prices, because they're also found in a fix and they have to make things work. And to me, that is a matter of concern, and is something that we have to address. But here's a very big contrast. So because the government is in desperate situation trying to raise funds or to raise money to meet certain conditions which it has been fixed in by the international financial institutions, so then the government of Kenya decided to build some very huge project here called the Nairobi Expressway. So it allows you to cross over the city without spending so much time on the traffic on the road below. But here's now the trick. For you to reach this road, you have to pay. Now the challenge here is that not everyone is capable of paying for these roads. So if you look at this road today, you'll realize that there are very few people are using the Nairobi Expressway, but then the majority are still using the road below. The few people who only travel in the morning going to work, like the government official, and traveling again back in the evening, or the few people who want to access the international airport very fast so that they do not miss their flight, are those who are using this Nairobi Expressway, which we call the road above the city. Are these conditions really fair to the citizens? Because again, the citizens who are still on the roads below are paying heavily. When they are wasting their time on those roads, when the fares or the taxi prices are raised, they are still paying taxes to keep funding or paying for the loans which were taken to use that road. And in 2024, we had one of the worst experiences, because Kenyans were tired, especially the younger generation. We were tired, and we began asking Kenyan government very important question. Where is our money? What is our money doing? Who are we paying? Who are we paying? Where did you take this money from? And how long are some of these projects going to be repaid? So Kenyans decided to go on the roads. And you remember, and I know it became a very big story across the whole world, 25th June, the year 2024, young Kenyans rose up across the major cities here in Kenya. And people rose up and said, you know what? Enough is enough. What did they get in return? Young people were killed, they were tear gassed, they were arrested, they faced abduction. And you know what? I speak as one of the victims who was actually arrested by the Kenyan government, detained without trial. I spent about 36 hours in the police cells, and it was not like a good experience. By the time you are coming out, you're asking yourself, why am I being arrested? Being arrested because I stood for what is right. But was it a reason to give up? No, we cannot give up, because we have to keep questioning and we have to keep asking all these difficult questions, because if we don't do it, we have future generations that will ask us, what did we do during our time? Kenya's situation is not in isolation, because most countries in the global south found themselves in these situations many a times. And many times when they find themselves in these kind of situations, first thing, they run to international financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund. The kind of help that these countries get come with a lot of conditions. The conditions that you have to meet. And because they are in desperate moments, they have no any other way to do this, because they don't have other ways of raising money to run economies. The average age of African population right now is below 25. These conditions are going to affect the younger generation and the future, because they're the people who are hugely affected. And every time we talk about this generation, every time this generation wants to rise up, they're always suppressed. The real cost of debt is not only financial. It is human, it is democratic, it is social. Because when you move around and you think debt is about raising taxes from people and that is all, nope. The more we take debt, the more we are becoming dependent on other people. And the more you increase the dependency ratio, even the poverty levels are rising. And that is crazy, it is crazy. So who is going to bear the cost of this debt? And that's why as young people and as Kenyans and as people in the global south, we are generally concerned, especially myself as a civic educator, I'm generally concerned. I feel a lot of pain. I feel a lot of frustration. And the frustration that I see from the faces of Kenyans every time you meet them in supermarkets, in petrol stations, in schools, in churches, even in hospitals, conversations about debt and democracy and leadership and governance is now beginning to be real.